The summer of 1863 brought a crucible of fire to the fields of Gettysburg, a moment where the Confederate cause teetered on a knife's edge. Within the fog of war, Lieutenant General James Longstreet emerged as a central witness, his narrative exposing not just the disorder plaguing the Southern ranks, but the deep-seated impact of command choices that would resonate for generations. As intelligence on Union maneuvers arrived and directives were issued under duress, Longstreet's testimony sheds light on the ordeals confronting his men, ordeals intensified by faulty communications, postponed offensives, and the heavy burden of command. The escalating pressure culminated in a decisive instant where planning broke down and the shadow of failure grew vast. Longstreet's direct account provides a powerful window into a conflict characterized by both courage and fragility, where a nation's aspirations crashed against the unyielding truths of combat. This is more than a story of armies clashing. It is a study of human fortitude against desperate circumstances, a chronicle that disentangles the intricacies of leadership and the grievous price of disunity at Gettysburg. And before we proceed, make sure you like and subscribe to Rootvolutionary to join our growing community of history enthusiasts. Now, let's delve into the account. Headquarters, 1st Army Corps, near Culpeper Courthouse, July 27, 1863. On the evening of the 28th, a scout from my detail came in with intelligence indicating Federal forces had crossed the Potomac and were presumably advancing toward our location. This scout was directed to Army headquarters with a recommendation for our forces to consolidate to the east of the mountain range and make ready to engage the adversary. The following day, instructions reached me to dispatch a portion of my command to establish a camp at Greenwood. The bulk of the Corps marched on the morning of the 30th, with the exception of Pickett's division, which was detailed to remain at Chambersburg to secure our rear. By approximately 2 o'clock, the reserve artillery had made camp at Greenwood. General Hood received orders to station a brigade and an artillery battery with Pickett at New Guilford on the route leading toward Emmitsburg. The next day, our forces commenced their advance in the direction of Gettysburg, save for Pickett's division, still performing duty at Chambersburg, and a substantial brigade left by Hood at New Guilford. Our advance was considerably hindered by Johnson's division of the 2nd Corps, which entered the road from Shippensburg accompanied by an extensive wagon train. Nevertheless, McClellan's division arrived at Marsh Creek, 4 miles from Gettysburg, just after nightfall, while Hood's division came to within a similar distance of the town around midnight. Law's brigade was commanded to advance and unite with its division during the day, and came up around noon on the 2nd. Prior to this, I had received directions from the commanding general to maneuver my present units to secure access to the Emmitsburg road on the enemy's left flank. The foe had been driven back by Lieutenant Generals Ewell and A.P. Hill the day previous, and had assumed a powerful position running from Cemetery Hill along the Emmitsburg road. Concerned that my strength was insufficient for an assault, I resolved to await the arrival of General Law's brigade to its division. Upon his arrival and our preparation, we initiated our movement. Engineers dispatched by both myself and the commanding general led us along a course that risked exposing our intentions. We encountered further delays while seeking a more concealed pathway. McClellan's division formed up opposite the enemy's left near 4 p.m., while Hood's division advanced farther to the right and began to partially envelop the enemy's left flank. The Federal position along the Emmitsburg road was not markedly stronger than the ground occupied by these two divisions. Our artillery commenced firing upon this position. With Hood's division assailing their left and McClellan's striking their front, we promptly compelled their retreat to a rugged hill that was arduous to ascend due to its difficult topography. Countless stone fences at its foundation augmented its defensive potency. The enemy sheltered behind these fences and clung to them tenaciously as we drove them back position by position until nearly dusk, when a substantial column engaged brigades from Major General Anderson's division that were supporting my left flank. This precipitated the retreat of one brigade and the weakening of support for another, leaving my left somewhat vulnerable, and turned. At this juncture, Wofford's brigade of McClellan's division was also compelled to withdraw. I judged it prudent not to press the advance further until my remaining troops were present. General Hood received a grave injury shortly after the action commenced and was obliged to quit the field. This misfortune precipitated a certain disruption to our operations. Brigadier General J.T. Anderson of his division also sustained serious wounds and was forced to retire as well. In this engagement, General McClellan lost 2 brigade commanders. General Barksdale suffered a mortal wound, while General Semmes was gravely injured and later succumbed to his wounds. By this time, our command was configured to hold the terrain secured on the right, while my left fell back to the enemy's original position at the Peach Orchard. In the course of this day's fighting, we secured 4 cannon along with 2 regimental colors. The next morning, preparations were made to recommence our assault from the right, intending to outflank the hill held by the enemy on their left. This was expected to be a gradual operation, but I believed it would not prove exceptionally arduous. Soon after I issued commands for this scheme, the commanding general joined me and instructed that an assault column be constituted from Pickett's, Heth's, and a portion of Pender's division. The offensive was to be made straight against the enemy's central position on Cemetery Hill. The expanse to be traversed under the enemy's observation and fire seemed too considerable to promise material success, particularly as 2/3 of the soldiers designated for the assault had been engaged in a severe battle 2 days prior, with only Pickett's division being unbloodied. Directives were issued to Major General Pickett to arrange his line under whatever concealment he could find from the Federal batteries, ensuring the center of the attacking column would strike the salient angle of the enemy's position. General Pickett's line was to direct the advance and assail the enemy's works, while General Pettigrew, commanding Heth's division, advanced concurrently on the same alignment as Pickett. Pickett's division was organized with 2 brigades in the front echelon, supported by a 3rd brigade to their rear. Wilcox's brigade was commanded to follow behind his right flank to shield it from any enemy force attempting an attack. Heath's division, under Brigadier General Pettigrew, was arranged in 2 lines and supported by part of Major General Pender's division under Major General Trimble. Every battery from the 1st and 3rd Corps, supplemented by some from the 2nd Corps, was placed to deliver effective fire upon the focal point of the attack and the hill held by the enemy's left. Colonel Walton, Chief of Artillery of the 1st Corps, in coordination with Colonel Alexander, had positioned our guns and synchronized with artillery officers from other corps on the moment to commence firing. Near 2 p.m., General Pickett, who had been charged with forming the lines behind our artillery, reported the troops were prepared and situated on covered ground. Colonel Walton was then commanded to open fire from our batteries. The signal guns fired, and the entire battery line replied with great effect. The enemy's guns on the hill at their left were soon subdued. However, those on Cemetery Hill continued to return our fire with considerable vigor. Many of their pieces were disabled, but fresh replacements were rapidly brought into action. Colonel Alexander was directed to find an observation post from which he could best gauge the effect of our fire and advise of the optimal moment to begin our infantry advance. After our artillery opened, I sent a message to Major James Deering's battery. It became apparent that the enemy was quickly replacing disabled batteries with new ones. I determined that we needed to attack immediately if we were to accomplish anything before nightfall. I commanded our batteries to replenish their ammunition chests and prepare to support our infantry's advance. I learned that he had counseled General Pickett that the moment for the attack had indeed arrived, and I then issued General Pickett the command to move forward. I found that our supply of ammunition was so limited that our artillery could not resume fire effectively. The command for an attack, which I would not have supported under improved circumstances, would have been countermanded had I believed that option was available to me. The advance was conducted with distinction. All units preserved their formations accurately while enduring the enemy's artillery fire with notable composure and resolve. Roughly midway between our position and the enemy's, a ravine afforded some protection from their fire, permitting a brief halt for rest. After a short pause, the advance was resumed in good order. The enemy's batteries soon reopened with canister aimed at our lines, causing our left to falter somewhat under this concentrated barrage. Nonetheless, the movement forward continued steadily despite this resistance. Pickett's men seemed undaunted by the enemy's fire and paused only briefly to return volleys once they were within effective musket range. Major General Anderson's division was ordered forward to support Pettigrew's and Trimble's wavering lines at this critical moment. After discharging their volleys against the enemy's position, Pickett's troops pressed forward with a charge, but then broke formation and fell back in considerable disarray. Far more men were lost to enemy fire during the withdrawal than had fallen in the initial advance against those works. This lamentable situation afforded the enemy a valuable opportunity to concentrate their whole force against Pickett's division, presenting a severe risk of shattering his lines or annihilating his command before Anderson's division could reach him in time. This would also gravely expose Anderson himself should he advance too far without support. Consequently, he was ordered to halt his movement immediately. In a short time, the enemy, advancing against both flanks and the front of Pickett's division, overwhelmed it and forced it back, capturing approximately half of those who were not killed or wounded. General Wright of Anderson's division, along with all officers, was commanded to reform and collect the scattered troops behind Anderson's division. Many staff officers from my headquarters were dispatched to aid in this effort. Expecting a Federal counterattack, I rode to the front of the artillery to examine and supervise their deployment. The enemy advanced detachments at intervals and from various points, but these were merely feints that retired as soon as our batteries opened upon them. These minor advances and withdrawals persisted until nightfall, when the enemy withdrew to their stronghold. My line was then withdrawn to the Gettysburg Road on the right and left, connecting with Lieutenant General A.P. Hill's right flank. After dark, orders were received to make all necessary preparations for our withdrawal. The instructions for preparation were issued, and work commenced before daylight on the 4th. On the night of the 4th, the troops were withdrawn from our line, and my command began its march following Lieutenant General A.P. Hill's corps. Our progress was severely impeded by torrential rains and roads in exceedingly poor condition. However, we succeeded in reaching the mountain passes early on the night of the 5th. On the 6th, my command advanced toward Hagerstown, though our exhausted men and animals were in no state for rapid movement. I considered it most unfortunate when I found I could not reach Hagerstown in time to relieve our trains at Williamsport, which were under severe threat from enemy forces. Arriving at Hagerstown around 5 p.m., our column proceeded down the Sharpsburg Pike and established camp about 2 miles from town. Reports itemizing casualties from the campaign, including those killed, wounded, and missing, have been previously submitted for your examination. I have the honor to be, Colonel, very respectfully, your obedient servant, James Longstreet, Lieutenant General Commanding, 1st Army Corps. As the guns fell silent over Gettysburg, the smoke cleared to reveal a field of profound consequence, scarred by sacrifice and unresolved questions. Lieutenant General James Longstreet's testimony lays bare not only the tactical disarray and confusion within the Confederate forces, but also the enduring inquiries that persist from this watershed moment. What alternative history might have been written had key decisions been altered? Could a more cohesive command structure have changed the battle's outcome? As Longstreet and his battered command retreated under the pall of loss, they bore with them not just their physical wounds, but the profound gravity of what might have been. The withdrawal toward Hagerstown signaled a critical juncture, yet it was only the commencement of a deeper contest, one that would test their endurance and reshape their destiny. In the light of the Union's triumph, the Confederacy was left to confront its own soul and its future. Longstreet's recollections compel us to ask, how do commanders steer through the immense complexities of war when confronted with seemingly impossible obstacles? What enduring insights does this turbulent episode offer into matters of leadership, planning, and the resilience of the human condition? We invite you to share your perspectives on Longstreet's report and what it reveals about command, fate, and the spirit of those in crisis. The battlefield is now silent, but the dialogue continues. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to Rootvolutionary for more deep dives into history's most pivotal moments.